All right. I'm hitting
Good.
record just to get the thing started. All right. Well, you guys want to just catch up a little bit, or do you want to just dive right into this?
Yeah, let's just dive into it. Which podcast are we on nowadays, John? I feel like they're getting up there. We're about to break the Ford numbers, right?
No. This is number 40. This is number 40. You were exactly right. We have broken into middle-aged podcasts.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
All right. Okay.
Weird. Well, now that was weird. So did everything just stop for you guys?
No.
Oh, great. So
Nope.
my internet is wonky, which is weird because I'm
Yeah,
plugged
now
into a
we've
wall.
got bad internet.
Oh,
Take
it's
it
not
easy there,
good.
civilization, man.
Yeah. I'm streaming off of a cell phone, so this should be all pretty entertaining.
That's crazy. All right. Well, I can't complain. Well, yeah. So this is episode 40. Since the last time we caught up, a lot has happened, and so there's much to discuss. So Gridlife happened. Tasso ran Rally Sprints of Gridlife. Dussex, you drove in Gridlife, and then Scotty, you trucked out to NASA. Trucked out to Utah to run in NASA at Utah Motorsports Complex. So where do we want to start with all of this? What do you want to talk about first?
Let's take the Band-Aid off and let's go straight to Utah. Let's rip that Band-Aid.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was fun. Got there Friday night. We did a track walk, and Austin Kent, who's TT3 driver, who's just dominating out there, was actually on the track walk and shared tons of information. Learned just a ton about the track, the kind of stuff you don't learn, driving the track. So on the track walk, learned a bunch. First session out, already picked up a second off my old personal best. Feeling real comfortable. Came back, put on the A7s, got prepped for session number 2, did a warm-up lap, 1 hot lap, and basically the head started ticking. Basically the motor's gone.
Oh God.
Well, so now having pulled it back into the pits, what did you discover that happened?
Well, so it was really weird. There was absolutely no signs of anything being wrong with the car. It was just full blast, all the way around the track. Once the head started ticking, I realized that the temperature was up at 248 degrees. There were cars behind me. None of them backed off. None of them flashed lights. I never got a flag, but I lost all the water in the car. Ended up with a hole in the radiator, thinking that it just sprayed all that water out the front, then basically, I guess, evaporated coming back through the radiator. And there was absolutely no signs whatsoever. There was no reason for me to look at the temperature gauge because everything was running so well. But when I got back to the pits, trying to figure out what was going on, we were looking for holes in the block itself, trying to figure out what exactly happened. And I started pouring water in the upper reservoir on the block and in the radiator itself. Actually saw water squirting out of the front of the radiator from the rock. And so basically it just knew that the radiator had gone, and then I lost all the water. So we pulled the oil last night, and from all the water I poured in after we got back into the pits, which was about a gallon, that came out of the oil pan first before any oil came out. And there's chunks sitting in there.
Yep.
So it's gone.
Like big chunks.
Big chunks.
Not even I don't know where that came from.
Pretty sure that, with the way it was ticking, either I broke a valve or dropped a valve or I'm pretty sure I melted through the ports, the passageways from oil to water, because there's definitely a clear path for water to get into the oil now.
A direct path, yeah.
Direct path, yeah. And but so yeah, I mean, time to rebuild. And I may or may not have already found a new used long block for about $800.
Nice.
So I'm not sure what the time frame is on getting it. The guy I'm getting it from is going to be putting a new built long block in. So yeah, we'll see what's going on from there. Hopefully I don't miss too many sessions.
So let's go back. So what was your previous best time before when you went out there? Was it a 2:11, or did you get down into break into the teens, or like
it was
the 10?
It was a 2:09.4 was my previous. So I new personal best by exactly 1 second to a 2:08.4.
Nice.
It was, there were TT4 cars out there running 2:06s.
Yeah.
So I'm more upset about the fact that I didn't get to put down the best lap I could, because I know I left at least 2, if not 3 seconds on the table out there. But yeah, I mean, Austin Kent set a new personal best out there at a 2:03.9.
Yeah, I saw that on the first day.
Yeah.
Dude, that is flying.
First session on the first day. Yep. So, I mean, looking at that dude's car, it's definitely set up very well. I mean, I think Moton 3-ways on there, fully stripped, caged, amazingly prepped car. But I know I shouldn't be that far behind him. So it sucks that I have to wait another year before I can go back for redemption again. I waited a whole year just to get there, to have basically 7 laps and lose a motor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you have planned now? What's your class allow for modification? Are you going to stick with your whole low power, kind of credo? Or
yeah, I mean,
is this time to turn it up a bit?
I can't make any more than 288 to stay in TT3. And that's still the plan. I still want to hunt down TT3 lap records out here. So I'm not planning on turning the wick up at all. I still want to stay right here. So interesting enough, I'm talking with Austin Kent out there. I was asking him about who holds the TT3 lap records at Utah. And the guy who set those also set those in 2015. One of the things that I didn't realize, because I'm chasing records set in 2015 also, the TT3 rules were different back then. It was actually 9.5 to 1. There wasn't an all-wheel drive restriction. I don't think you had the turbocharge penalty.
Man.
I guess it's not an all-wheel drive restriction, the all-wheel drive penalty. I don't think there was a turbocharge penalty, and 9.5 to 1. So Austin was saying that there's no way in hell that he can actually get those records, those TT3 records out there. I mean, it's a 2:02.3 in TT3. And he even tried to get them to reset the records for, basically the new rules, and they told him no. So
is your powder weight based on just a peak number? It's just
no, it's an average.
It's an average number.
Okay.
But then basically one of the penalties we get is on a Dyno Dynamics or all-wheel drive or Dyno Dynamics or Mustang Dyno. They must think that the correction factor's all wonky, and so they make you multiply your average horsepower times 1.1, and that has to be your race power. So my 1.1 times 288 puts me at like 312, and that's my 10-to-1 power to weight ratio. So
basically a conversion for the fact the assumption is that a Dyno Dynamics or a Mustang dyno is going to read about 10% lower than like whatever their spec dyno is.
Right. So I mean, all in all, I think it's kind of a ripoff. I mean, I could go find another all-wheel drive dyno that's certified that I don't have to take that penalty and actually make 312 to the wheels. But yeah, I don't know.
The turbo averaging sucks too because it's only 3 data points, whereas the normally aspirated cars are 7.
Right.
So the averaging, just to put it into perspective, we had a TT2 Dodge Viper out here, and its average horsepower is 517 horsepower, but its peak horsepower is like 545. So like when you take those 7 data points, man, it really squashes that power band or the average down a lot. I mean, it depends on how cars make power. Like the Subarus, you can make them, they can be peaky, but they can also be really flat too. So, I mean, it is what it is. But
sort of what the context of my question was if you have an opportunity here to build for a flatter power curve, depending on where they pull those average points from.
So
even if you're not building for base power.
I think it's peak torque, and then isn't it 500 RPMs on either side of it?
I think it's
peak horsepower.
Peak horsepower.
Yeah. And then the 500
250
or 250 on each side.
Yes,
of it.
250.
But
Yeah.
with that new VIA 48 HF, it's a pretty flat power band up around there anyway. So I'm not really losing anything from that. It's not like it's super peaky. Even when we turned it up to like the 346 horsepower map, it was still pretty flat around there.
That's
so
good.
like with that average, it's not like I would be I'm not losing
Benefiting.
anyway.
Yeah. So what did you guys do with the fuel stuff? Did you change anything in the fuel system and try and address that like cutout and stuff that it's been having?
So we put it on the dyno. Harvey did pull after pull after pull. Noticed the cutout on the very first pull he did. He's like, oh, there it is. And then spent the next 40 minutes trying to figure out why. And he couldn't. He was completely stumped. He ended up just turning the front and rear fuel pump controllers to 100% all the time. And then he did 7 more pulls and it's like, yeah, it's not happening. You're all fixed. So somewhere in there, we still have no idea why. He's never seen it. I've talked to other people, said that they've never seen anything like that. But just turning the fuel pump controllers all the way up seemed to fix the problem. Now, the weird thing is for the first 3 laps on my first session, I kind of had no power over 5,000, 5,500 RPMs. You'd mash the gas, and it would like the RPMs would pull up to about 50, 5,500 RPMs, and then it would just flatten out like there was no power. So I was short shifting around the track for the first 3 laps, and then all of a sudden, I had all the power in the world. It revved all the way to red line, and then I never had any of the fuel cuts from there. So, but then again, I mean, it's hard to tell exactly if everything was fixed from 7 laps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
What about
it is
the
at least
alignment?
better than it's been in a long time.
Yeah.
Well,
it's really
not
bad
anymore.
right now.
Well, it was better until it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what about the alignment on the car? I know you changed it. We talked about changing the front a little bit, right? I'm just curious to how you got it changed.
Amazing differences there. So I went with the stock front sway bar and added another another degree of camber up front. So put it at 5 degrees of camber up front with the stock front sway bar. Didn't touch the rear. Turn in felt amazing. Like I didn't know what I was missing until I felt it, you know, and you were basically just like it's so numb on turn-in. You know, you were talking about understeering that very first second on turn-in, you know, before it pushed for a second before, and
right.
I didn't even realize it. It had felt great to me, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know what he's really talking about, but fuck it, I'll try and change some stuff up and see. And it was amazing. So turn 5 at Utah, super tight, probably the slowest corner on the track, and the turn in was just amazing. So yeah, again more pissed that the car was set up, and I could have really gave Austin a run for his money, I think, and didn't get the chance to do it. So
it's just such a totally random occurrence. I mean, Scotty, you were saying you have not run, like, since the car was a race car and you took the AC condenser out, the radiator's been basically the first point of contact up there for years now. Never had any issues, and then here, just a rock decides to just ruin your day and your weekend.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you get pelted with rocks on the track all the time. You know, if a car's in front of you, you know, it'll pop up a rock. My windshield cracked from, you know, basically the tire boogers on the track had a rock in it, and that flung up and hit the windshield. That was last year, and that cracked the window. So I mean, it's not completely uncommon, but you know, the fact of like 10 straight years of having that car on track, and then I've told the other guys, I never thought in a million years that I would be taken out by a rock to the radiator.
Yeah.
You know, like to actually lose a motor like that.
Well, and what's all too familiar about it is this is kind of what happened to the engine in the Pikes Peak car. Was it last year, in testing last year?
Yeah,
testing. Yeah.
And I remember at the time being like, thinking like, man, there must have been signs that like when all the coolant is gone, you'd figure that you'd have a lot more indicators. And actually, Scott in the Pikes Peak car had a little bit better of a chance to see something because his he has an oil temp gauge, and so the temperatures went up, and he did see that. But it's just like if you're in the moment, if you're pushing and you're trying to make a lap time, you're not driving in the gauges. You're you know, you almost need like some kind of an alarm that would go off that say like, hey, this is something is really out of spec, and it's enough to kind of limp the car. But at that point, I mean, pretty much the damage has happened.
You may not even see, like, if you're losing coolant, you may not see that the coolant is getting hot because it's not flowing past the sensor, right? So you would have to rely on an oil temp gauge or a coolant pressure gauge or something like that to tell you that something's up. So
and it really did happen so fast. You know, like I said, there was no sign of anything. There was no big puff of smoke, no big, there was no sign.
Yeah.
And
no other indicator. The car felt fine. Yeah, until it started hearing the valve noise.
You're going to have to put that chicken wire on like the Thai car has on it. I mean, it looks so goofy and silly, but I mean, if you could figure out like how big of a projectile it would take to take a radiator out, you know, and like, I guess that's how big that is. There's a lot of rocks that people pull out on the corner one too. Like on the corner one exit, people get 2 tires off and they bring those rocks, it seems like, right back onto the track. And I've gone through there and just like skate through marbles before, you know, when that shit happens.
Well, and Adam Smith talked about this honeycomb Nomex basically cover that you put in front of it. And it's like an inch thick of honeycomb that goes in front of it. But
I mean, like off-road trucks and stuff, I think, primarily.
But at the same point in time, it's been 10 years and I've never had an issue. Yeah. It's like I kind of don't think – I mean, if I don't do something, of course, it'll probably happen again. My first session out, catch another rock to the radiator.
I didn't even say that. Yeah. And I was telling Scotty, way back on the rally car years and years ago, they'd taken out the AC, but they left the condenser in front of the radiator. And then there was some point where we realized, wait a minute, the AC condenser's there, but we don't have it. We should just get rid of that thing. So they pulled it out. And then for a while, we were going through a radiator every other rally, or like I think we had a couple back-to-back radiator failures because something would just get into the radiator, puncture it, and it would just dump out all the coolant. And then ProDrive actually made this little grill mesh that went onto that lower section, and we put that on, and that pretty much removed that problem. And it was pretty big mesh. It wasn't like a screen or anything like that.
Right.
But it's just, you know, I think it just took away the ability for a rock to kind of, you know, the chance of a rock to fly through that mesh and not be slowed down or something like that.
I know, like the circle track, like Speedway and stuff like that, they sell different, I don't know what they are, hole sizes of mesh, so you can tune for like how big the rocks are on the track you're going to in your circle track. And then you can put the appropriate, because it'll block some airflow, right? So you want it as open as possible for airflow, but as close as possible for protection. So I've seen them on those sites where they sell them in, you know, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2 inch grids and stuff like that. And Like I know
I mean,
the
they
research I was
sell
doing
that
for the
stuff at Home
Taikyu
Depot
stuff.
for cheap.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that right. You go get your screen door mesh, but
No, not
know
that. They have like Chicka wire and stuff. I mean, that's all that shit looks like it is on the Super Taikyu. It's pretty big squares, like 3/8 or ½ inch. They're pretty big. Like it kind of makes you wonder, like, what would this even stop? But
I don't have
Yeah.
anything in front of the radiator on the hill climb car, and I pick up mostly. I get a bunch of little rocks in there, like just on the little shelf of the ducting that's in there, but I get like leaves and sticks and stuff. Like after, we'll talk about it, I guess, at Gridlife a bit, but that field out there has such tall, grass and weeds and stuff right next to the track. I'd finish runs and pull out, whole bushes and stuff from the front of the car. So
Yeah, that'll impede your cooling a little bit.
Nah.
So,
it's
Scotty,
just-
what happened to your old block? Where's your old block at? The one that you took out? I think it had bearing failure, right, or potential bearing failure.
No, that original block with 33,000 miles is sitting on the shelf right there. It's still in perfect condition, wrapped in cellophane. I mean, it could go back in, no problem. And hell, it might, depending on how this other block looks. But yeah, because I mean that was pulled out only because of I was just like, it's probably old and tired. 33,000 miles, mostly race miles, and so it's still there.
Yeah. I was kind of wondering. I figured. I mean, the heads have got to be likely warped, but hopefully they're in okay shape. I mean, that'll be the big.
No, I'm pretty sure the heads have holes in them.
Yeah, but on the Pikes Peak car, they literally melted. I mean, aluminum down. I mean, it was.
Sounds like you have a hole from combustion chamber to cooling jacket.
Yeah.
Yep.
That sucks. So this other engine you're getting in, that's a whole long block then, right? So you have something to work with, like a whole something to work with?
Correct. So, and unknown miles on it. But, I mean, I guess I'll inspect it, at least look at the cross-hatching, see if my block looks better than that block, and just go from there.
Yeah. Well, the heads are worth $800 easy. So, I mean, that makes it definitely worth it for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, the heads are one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle. The little secret to the other option, like plan, I don't know, H, is that Subaru has recently come out with a W25 head that has a valve train in it. So it's the W25 head.
Valve train.
Well, it's the valve springs retainers. It just doesn't have the cams
or the
buckets. But they're very reasonably priced, and
W25 dual AVCS.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, is that what you are right now? Or are you on a?
Yep.
Yeah,
it's dual AVCS.
Sweet.
Yeah. So like that would be another option, but then like cams add up. I mean, just every piece of a cylinder head, if you have to replace everything, every little piece adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
Yeah.
You've been down this path.
Have a box of buckets if you need them. You can pick through them.
Yeah. I might need to borrow this box of buckets to set my my engine up eventually.
Yeah.
But
it's one of these things where, like, I guess we've all kind of been there a little bit. Well, you all three are now all in the same boat, having been to this point where, like, man, Tasso, I remember you went through 4 engines in 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, it was a handful of compounding circumstances.
Right.
So,
but this is one of the challenges of racing that you kind of don't think about it, because for one, I guess if you really thought about it a lot, you probably would just do something else, like take up chess or something like that, because it's you run into this.
You get in the middle of the chessboard and you don't notice it's starting to leak its chess pieces, and the next thing you know,
it's terrible.
Chambers and stuff. Yeah.
The dogs start eating the pieces. You have to buy new pieces. It just starts adding up. But I mean, this is one of those challenges. Like, if you're really going to compete, if you're going to get into a series where you've got it, this is not just going to the track when you're ready. This is you're running a car on a calendar. You have a number of events that you have to. You decide you're going to try and put together a season and run a certain number of events. It becomes it can become a challenge of like, okay, well, how can you even just string those events together? And I don't know. I mean, maybe just from a mindset. I mean, Scotty, I think you know that you've got the bug when, like, what you're saying is you're more frustrated by the fact that you didn't get to put in more laps until you had the failure versus having the failure in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
I
like,
mean, the losing a motor or how breaking something on the car, even putting it into a wall, that's part of it. You know, I mean, I know this shit's coming. I've lucked out for the last few years. I mean, running a stock short block with kind of limited power, but you know, this thing runs at red line for 20-minute sessions 4 times a day, 2 days a month. And, you know, I knew it was only a matter of time, but yeah, that doesn't piss me off. It pisses the bank account off.
Yeah.
The accountant.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the time, I mean, time is everything. This is time trials, time attack. That's everything. And knowing that there was so much time left out there, it makes me angry.
Well,
a motor's a motor.
I mean, you hear those stories. You hear those stories too, where big teams are like, we are on a heater. The engine's at 260 degrees. We got 2 more turns, and they will fucking melt that thing down to break a record. That's what it takes.
If that's what it takes.
Well, and I mean, one of the things, like when you get into a situation like this, I'm like Scotty, now having figured out this change, having a positive, like a likely solution to the fueling problem that you've been chasing for, gosh, probably about the last, 3 to 6 months, something like that, at least this season. A year.
Yeah.
And then playing with your front alignment settings so that now you've got all of this extra front grip. I'm sure that, because like the next event that you were supposed to go to was High Plains, and that's like 2 weeks away. I mean, extremely narrow time window. So I think the chances of that are fairly slim. But I'm sure that part of the motivator to you is like, man, now that I've got this figured out and this figured out, I've got to know what does that mean for me at High Plains.
Sounds like you should probably just let him work on the car at work, and then he can make it.
It's not the time. It's how much
the
has
money
to be replaced.
It's the money problem. Yeah, knowing I'm going to get this long block, but not knowing when. I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, I know I'm not making the event in 2 weeks, but then Hastings, Nebraska is basically in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to get out to Hastings. I think the car would do really well there with the setup and the aero. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So if nothing else, the last event of the season, October 2nd and 3rd, back out at High Plains.
Which is going to be a good record time too. I mean, not that the TT3 record. I mean, the TT3 record's brutal at High Plains right now, isn't it? It's like a 155 or a 153 or something.
152.3.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
But again, like we were talking about earlier, in 2015 with a completely different set of rules, where you're probably down 10, maybe even 20% of the power that you could have made back in 2015 here in 2021.
Right.
So you gonna like 2-wheel drive convert your car and go to naturally aspirated so that you can hit some of the modifiers, or what?
Sure. So you mean sell this and get a BMW?
Oh, what?
DCT?
We're gonna stock Corvette and see if you can do it. Yeah.
Vets take a lot of work too, man. I mean, they're freaking leaf springs. You look at the spec vet setup, and the spec vet setup, just the suspension setup, which isn't terribly priced, but I think it's like $4,200 for the coilover conversion for a C5. I mean, that sucks. Like that, you're already shelling out, almost $5,000 on just suspension to get those things to do normal car stuff. Everyone talks about how awesome the vets are, and they are awesome to a point, but they take a lot of money to get there. They're still expensive vehicles.
No, I'll stay turbocharged and all-wheel drive and still go push for that record. If I feel like it's going to be unattainable, then maybe we'll turn the power up and
shoot for
something
TT2. Well, what about the it might be quicker to just get the yellow card dynoed and then just put your numbers on the side of it and reset the seat. and just 5x114 wheels, right?
Yeah.
Just blast that thing out there and try not to roll it.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that thing's
I'd have to get
TT3
comfortable
power.
right-hand drive
Yeah, that's
to
true.
begin with.
Yeah.
Which
It's super trippy. It's not
which
that
scares
bad.
me. Well, and
It
plus
would
I
just
can't
take a
see
little
over the
seat time.
fucking dash.
Well, that's what I was saying. We had to totally redo the seat because the seat is like this is normal. This is that seat like this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's, I swear, that's how it feels like I'm driving that car. Like Jeanette drove that thing. I don't know how she saw apexes. I don't know how she turned in and did the time she did sitting like that.
Yeah, she was literally like the visor from her helmet was like level with the door, like to the window of the door. Like, I don't know how she could see either. I guess it takes looking ahead like to a whole nother level for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so enough about me. Let's have you two guys talk about grid life.
So this was out at PPIR, Pikes Peak International Raceway. And it was a whole
Horizon
bunch
Festival.
of stuff. Yes, Alpine Horizon Fest. A whole bunch of stuff going on.
Dude, it was nuts, man. Like, so I had two people I was instructing. Both of them are Subi boys. I think one of them's going to come out to the SCCA time trials event we're having in a couple weeks. So I'm super excited about that. But the amount of people around here was just like that, for starters, was insane. Jeanette said there was 6,500 people who came through the gate just for Friday night just to watch the music, like that were just here just for Friday. 6,500 people. It's like, that's just like, and it's an unfathomable amount, and that's just one night, you know? I mean, it was super wild. There's lots of cars. There's like 70 or 75 drift cars. There's like 77 time attack cars, tons of HPDE people. I mean, it was just like the amount of cars and the amount of people was just absolutely insane, for sure. 100%.
So we're saying that like the time attack slots sold out. I think the tickets for Saturday sold out, like spectator tickets.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
It was like, here's the limit. This is how many people you can let in, and you guys hit that.
I was talking to Adam, and he said they had like 100 people originally on the driving roster for time attack, and they just started reaching out to people and said, "Hey, you can't come. Hey, you can't come. Hey, your bill's not done. You can't come." Like, they cut the time attack roster down to, they were trying to ballpark it around 80 cars because it wasn't even like the on-track experience they were worried about. It was the paddock space. Like when they had, 70, almost 80 drift cars and almost 80, time attack dudes. This is all those people are inside the paddock. And then you've got everything else, the instructors, you've got the HPDE people, you've got the vendors. Like, they were just super paranoid about running out of space. And I think it was rightfully so, because, I mean, it was packed in the paddock for sure.
And a lot of spectators. I mean, this is one of the first big events in Colorado since everything is largely opened up again. And so, I mean, it was pretty clear that there were a lot of people that wanted to get out and see some driving again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in terms of
where the rally stuff was out by the entrance to the general admission, spectator parking and stuff like that. All day Saturday, there was a line of cars out through the gate of people waiting to get in. There was never a point where like the line dwindled or something. All day, all the way through till the Saturday night concert started, there were, 400 cars waiting to get in the gate. So
I heard it was like three hours is what it was taking some of these people to get through with the vehicle searches and just the sheer amount of people. And I don't necessarily think it was understaffed. I mean, it's not a NASCAR race, I think it was staffed for what like the budget was, but it was definitely busting at the seams for sure, 100%. I mean, there just was not enough people. There's just so many people coming to the event. It was just totally wild.
Yeah. That's cool.
Well, very good for the event. So, I mean, what did you get, Ryan and Tasso, what did you guys think about actually the event, driving the event?
I think it was awesome. I mean, I had the best chance to set my fastest time, and Scotty and I talked about this. Set the time in the beginning on the first session, because there's never going to be a better time. And that couldn't have held truer. I mean, that was exactly what it was. I went out on my first session It was kind of a free for all. I was like, I'll run in B, no, I'll run in A. Like, you know what? I'll just go to A. There's a lot of people who think they're a lot faster than they are, and they want to be in front and they want to get it done. And I get it. But I mean, I was on track for a low 101, and I'm literally behind a car, and I'm trying to shoot for 1 minute. I'm literally behind a car I don't think has any rear brakes or any rear weight. I was behind this crazy Fiesta that was like a Festiva or whatever. That was just walking me down the straight stretch. Like, I would catch him up in the dip, and then he'd walk me again down the other back stretch. And he got on the brakes when I was like really bearing. I was like, all right, dude, like I'm on like a really good fucking flyer. I'm bearing down him on the brake zone. He's driving the brake zone super deep. He jumps on the brakes. The back tires come up off the ground, and the car's like skipping. The back of it's skipping back and forth, and the car looks so unpredictable. And I was like, nope, this shit isn't worth it. Like, I'll take my 102 and just settle with that, because, I mean, this dude was going to be an accident waiting to happen. You know, that car was. And so and that was my fastest session the whole weekend, was that one session where I ran that 102 too. And it was, a part of it was like the surface conditions were pretty good. But the drifting and the heat, like the on-track temperatures, I think at one point they were showing it on the live stream, was like 131 degrees or something. It's like the track was hot. Yeah, the track was super hot. My car felt fine on power. Didn't feel like it really was too mad about it. But, I mean, you could tell a difference going through when you go into the dip every time, how much less grip there was because of the temperature. And I ended up cutting 2 of my Pirellis, the sidewalls. So I had to swap to street tires for the second day, and they just weren't. They were better in the sense that I could drive all 10 laps and they felt consistent. Whereas the Pirellis were like 2 laps and then nothing. But they were definitely way slower than the Pirellis were, which was I was kind of shocked by that. And I think I got within 0.2 of it. And like a really cool part of the day, at the end of the day, when the sun ran in, it started like a light sprinkling and like help drop the temperatures on the track and stuff. But yeah, I mean, for me, I ran the 102. But I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a respectable time, knowing the fact. Well, the first session was at 9.
Yeah.
On Friday, and that's when you did the 102. And then from every point from then on, the temperatures rose, track temps rose, and we've talked about it. There's no grip out there as soon as it gets hot.
Yep. Yeah, this track is brutal. And it's like a sun bowl, you know, like it's literally, it feels like the sun is magnifying across, sideways, up, down, left, right, you know, and the car wasn't like this. I've had the pleasure of driving this track with nobody on it, and the car isn't as hoppy as it was when you're trying to put power down. And a lot of people were making comments like, man, your car is just jumping and skipping around. It's only doing that when you're trying to put power down. Like the car's literally clawing for traction. And there's either too much or not enough, but not at the same time. And so kind of for like my Hail Mary pass on Sunday, because we had one morning session on Sunday, I softened the shocks. They were kind of like in the upper third of the hardness. I softened them all the way down to the lower third on the hardness, so not like super soft. And it helped me in 2 turns, and it hurt me in like 8 and the rest of the turns, the other 7 turns. So it helped in like the 2 slow parts, and the car would put power down because it was just softer, you know, it wasn't as resistant. But when it came to the dip, it just couldn't hold the dip. When it came to coming back out onto the roll, just couldn't hold the roll. Like, so it was definitely a struggle from that perspective. And when you're trying to work with what cars are around you at the same time, you had to be pickier, you know, and take what you can get. And so, yeah, I mean, that didn't help at all. And so everybody who watches the live stream or sees it or saw it or whatever had people just like usual, you know, man, your car looks so bouncy. And like, you know, all the people on the internet who are suspension professionals and can tell you everything from, you know, their 10 frame per second video, were trying to tell me that my car was bouncy. You know, I was in it, so I could tell, but it was only doing it when it was on power. Like you could come out of a corner as hard as you wanted, and the car wouldn't jump or bounce at all. So like one of my strategies on Saturday afternoon was to just try and apex turns that I was normally kind of like, I was apexing them so much later that when the car got pointed, it was pointed straight, and then I could put power down. So I was just having to wait, and I turned the boost up, which really only affects the mid-range, and it did help a little bit. So like that little delay in throttle, like when I got to put power down, it's kind of making it up with like a couple more pounds of boost in that mid-range to kind of help me get out. But yeah, it was just from the car's perspective. I mean, it was just clawing out here, and it just wasn't as good as it could have been, you know?
Yeah. Well, Tasso, what about the rally sprints? How was that? I mean, did the heat, was that a big factor, or not so much?
And mostly just for me as like the driver, right? The car did fine. It's a pretty short run out there, so it wasn't so much of a factor. It was a cool kind of reorganization this year, because I don't know if we ever talked about this or whatever, but last year, right, it was like just kind of a exhibition, open, kind of whatever, like a sideshow kind of thing. And so like even last year I got into the event as Scotty's crew, and my car was one of his race support vehicles and stuff like that. So you know, like it was, and then I showed up over there like, hey, can I come do this? They're like, yeah, I guess. I don't know, buy a ticket or something. I don't know. And so to go from that to this year, you know, it actually being a competition that was advertised, it showed.
Organized.
What's that? Organized. Yeah, it was organized, advertised, and made the blog post. There was a ticket you could buy for it.
Did the Rally Ready guys organize it, or was it the Gridlife guys that organized it?
So the Rally Ready guys did. I know, you know, the CHCA had been knocking on those doors trying to get some organization done. The Rally Ready guys, turns out as well, were trying to do that. And, you know, I think they put together a fun event. If you remember, like going back to our podcast with Bucky and Dave, talking about kind of that session style, have a good time, you know, positive, you know, everyone building on each other kind of atmosphere. That was kind of their vision for this, and I think it showed with, you know, we had a lot of fun out there. It was a good time, and you know, being advertised, it brought out, I don't know, 16 or 18 rally cars from, you know, even as far away as like the Midwest, I think is, you know, there was a team out from Missouri or something like that as well too. So, you know, it wasn't just, you know, the local yokels that came out from Colorado here. It was, you know, teams drove for this event, and I think everybody had a good time. It was a bracket style elimination, so we had, you know, tons of opportunities for kind of free driving or practice, right? And then there was you know, you got a best of 2 qualifying run, and that bracketed you just like your, you know, March Madness tournament or something like that, right? And so then it was single elimination brackets all the way down to, just because it was, you know, kind of running a little bit long, we ran the final 4 just all head to head and then ranked it out that way. But
so how could you explain, like with the brackets? So you're paired up against another car. Do you both have to do like 1 or 2 runs, and it's the fastest time of that run or 2?
Yeah, so 1 run, right? Yeah, we weren't, you know, directly head to head. It was still against the clock. But so I qualified first, so I bracketed up against the 16th place car or something like that. I think it was 16th, not 8th. I think it was. So right, obviously then, you know, I had an easier first round to make it through, but it started to ramp up pretty quickly, that competition.
Yeah.
So I just go put down a run, they put down a run, faster time, advance to the next bracket. And then, you know, that's the final 8 or whatever, or the round of 8 or something. So, or, you know, quarterfinal, semifinal, whatever the term is. I'm not a sports guy.
Yes.
But
at least
Elite
basketball. Yeah.
They did a really good job. They want to kind of like take this and show how much fun it was, and maybe even expand it to some of the other Gridlife events. So they were, you know, doing a lot of media production throughout the thing. You know, they gave a lot of opportunities, which I really appreciate as an amateur or whatever, semi-pro, you know, driver, is that opportunity for exposure stuff. So they had a bunch of opportunities, you know, interviewing drivers. You did a finish line interview after every run, and, you know, Bucky was there, you know, being a character and stuff like that. And, you know, some of the Ron from Hoonigan was out there, and doing some stuff too, and I got to meet all these guys too. You know, we podcasted
That's
with
awesome.
Bucky, but I'd never met him in real life, and Dave and you know, Hoonigan and Ron and all those guys and stuff. And it was cool to see that they're not just some character they put on for whatever they're doing. You know, these are all, you know, genuine people. It turned, you know, Bucky, Dave, those guys just genuinely want to have a good time, and the whole Rally Ready crew were really good guys to hang out with. We all kind of ended up hanging out together in like kind of the Rally Ready pit area. So it was a fun event. You know, some stuff figured out as we went, you know, because none of us had ever really run a bracket style rally sprint before, but it was fun. You know, car did okay. I had to replace an axle on the practice and qualifying day, so I popped another axle at PPIR because I think it's just fun there. So I just chuck it into corners and it loads up, and then, you know, finds the weakest point. And so it, but I found hopefully another solution for axles using a kind of a local distributor here for a little higher quality product. So we'll see how that turns out before, you know, anything becomes podcast official. But so hopefully that kind of solves that. And, you know, it was a good time. I told myself coming into the weekend to take it easy. You know, Land's End, from that weekend to Land's End was only 2 weeks. I knew Land's End was going to be a good show. There's a bunch of fast folks showing up for Land's End, you know, professional drivers showing up for Land's End. So, you know, I told myself, don't go crazy with fun runs and put a billion laps on the car and wear it out and blow through a bunch of tires and stuff like that. So fortunately I was able to kind of keep myself disciplined even with the party atmosphere and stuff. And
Nice.
it was good.
That bracket style for a rally sprint like that sounds perfect because it gives people multiple runs for the most part, unless you're just getting knocked out in the first round. And hopefully even those guys that got knocked out in the first round got some more runs in there.
Yeah, there's tons of time for free running throughout the weekend. So
that's a fun structure. Like, so if anybody's spectating or if they took a lot of video and they're editing it together, I mean, that would be fun to watch, just how those brackets kind of work their way down.
Yeah, I think spectator and media friendly as a format versus, you know, rally, right, is so difficult to either spectate or film. If anyone listening has ever been out to a rally and tried to watch them, you know, you go to the middle of nowhere in the woods and then a car goes and then you're done, right? So
then you drive for an hour and a half to get to the next spectator location, and then you
yeah, right. Exactly.
And then you go to the pits, and then that's it.
Right, and PPIR is so spectator friendly because it's all kind of, there's a little rally sprint course there. It's all kind of compact, so it's all right there. It's easy to walk out to any point in the course and, you know, be in a relatively safe space and still watch. And it's the turns there are, you know, not only dusty but kind of safe and confidence inspiring as a driver. So, you know, you're able to put on a good show. So it's fun to drive. It's fun to watch. You can hear cars the whole way through doing their thing and making good noises and stuff. And so
that's really great to hear. And I can't wait. I'm sure that those guys are going to put something out. I haven't seen Rally Ready or Bucky put anything out yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yep. But so they're going to make a whole, like a mini video on it, and it's you know, professionally produced, and I'm really excited to see that too.
Well, and hopefully that gets, like, one, it's kind of a proof of concept for that venue, and so then hopefully even more people will come out next year to do that rally part of it, and then just let spectators know about it. I mean, that sounds like something that's, you know, just as spectator friendly as, like, the, you know, the drifting or the time attack.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. All right. So it's, you know, it's kind of like drifting, except for, you know, we're not just some two-wheel drive cars sliding around slow. Like, you know, we're going as hard as we can in four-wheel drive cars, and
it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Well, so Tasso, what was the overall outcome of this?
Oh yeah,
this whole rally sprint.
I won. I won the rally sprint brackets, and you know what? I had the only, like, truly unrestricted hill climb car there. So I kind of, going into the weekend, you know, I set the expectation for myself that that was the goal. But I tell you what, that Dave guy is no slouch, and he like every time I'd ratchet up a little bit, he'd like go, oh nope, better keep going. So it's
And so how much did you win by?
really close, about a second. So,
well, and Bucky was right there too, wasn't he? So you guys were 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So that I'm trying to remember. There was a guy from the Terra Rally crew, Southern California, was right in the mix too. So the top 4 were, me, Dave, Bucky, and the Terra guy. I think Maggie, the WRX is his Instagram or something like that. So, but yeah, so pretty tight. Tight enough to make me, like, every run I was like, man, I gotta like stop goofing around these corners and kind of focus up here. But and it got to the point where it stayed, and that was the goal of the thing, right? It stayed friendly and fun. But Dave, I saw him like, hey guys, slap some new tires on the car. I got to get out there. I'm like, oh shit, guys, I don't have any guys to tell, but like, shit, Tasso, I better go put some new tires on my car.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, I got to stop goofing around this corner for good photos and really take the fast line through here and stuff like that. And you could see each of us like, it was really fun because it was that, we talked about like with that, session style format of things, where it's, you kind of positively build off the competition as opposed to getting like, dark and competitive kind of thing. So it was fun. It stayed positive, and it was fun to see each other. Everyone kind of like ratcheted everyone else up, and it was cool. And even to talk, with Bucky more about that, from like, his skating side of things too, and how it kind of feeds similarly. And it was cool honestly, to see, especially because we had that podcast about that. It was cool to see it kind of come to fruition like that. And
that's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, and that bracket format, it just, that is what that bracket format does, is it kind of like you're turning up the heat in the pressure cooker as the brackets drop away and you move closer and closer to that last 1, 2. And it's just,
And so I could see what Dave was doing on the other side because he qualified second. So even if we went all the way through, we weren't going to meet each other until the finals.
Right.
So we could kind of see what the other one was doing. And like every run, he beat my previous run's time. So I had to keep stepping it up every time. And it was good. Von Gittin came over on one of the open lapping portions and his, I don't know.
Just crazy, like Bronco, like a Pro 4 Bronco or something.
20,000 horsepower, 20 million tires, whatever it was, right? Some unlimited desert contraption of his, and put down a time. It wasn't until my final run that I beat his time, but I did end up, and I heard he cut the course too, so, take that for what it is. But, so, whatever. But nonetheless, last year, Vaughn, and it might have been Lauren also, the same guy, that Ultra 4 guy. Last year they came out with I think he had a spec trophy truck, Vaughn did last year maybe. There's another Ultra 4 truck, another trophy truck came out last year too, and I felt like I was going faster than those guys, but there was no like competition to prove that, hey, rally cars are no joke. But this year we actually had timing to prove like, hey, on a it was a really bumpy dirt road. There are definitely sections where I had to check up for the terrain, and he obviously would not have had to, right? It was too smooth a road for him, but
3 feet of suspension travel.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty massive.
Yeah, and so this year there was a silt corner that we called the Baja Corner, just because it got so silted and rutted and chunked out that I mean, almost every run I shoved dirt into the bead of my tires on that run, and had to come back and clean my tires out after every run just to keep them holding air.
Wow.
But, so there were sections I had to check up, and I have I'm on heavy duty long travel suspension being a rally car, but still not quite enough for some of the stuff. So I was interested to see, because he's in a 4-wheel drive car now too, I think, Vaughn. So, he doesn't even have that disadvantage of 2-wheel drive that the trophy trucks have. Of only a couple years ago, so
that's awesome.
So it's cool. Yeah, it was so much fun. I'm excited to see the video come out. I'm excited to have had the opportunity to participate, and other drivers like myself, spectators. Everyone had just so much access to the whole pit area and hanging out with people, and Bucky is giving out autographs. I got to talk with Ron about trying to convince him to come out to some more hill climbs and stuff.
Yeah.
And and just it was a cool crowd, cool vibe. I can see why the drifters have so much fun, because it's similar kind of vibe, but just everyone having a good time. So
man, that's brilliant. And I mean, hopefully the guys from Gridlife saw that. And I mean, it's like, this is something like that could be something that lights the fire under somebody's, with the Subaru or that wants to run dirt but doesn't know what to do. I mean, it's like, stage rally is very involved. There's a lot of steps to go through to be able to run a stage rally. And I mean, it's just like the logistics of running a stage rally is huge. So that's for like the hill climbs the hill climbs in Colorado, that's where it's a much more attainable thing. And now maybe if Gridlife runs with this a little bit more where on the venues where it can, I mean, this could be something else that's attainable for somebody that really wants to go out there and drive fast in dirt.
Yeah.
Dave should probably try and work with Coda and do something like this, a super lap, because they have like a GSC course there, right? Like a GRC, whatever they call it, Global Rallycross course there at Coda.
I think they've done Global Rallycross there, but I don't know if because Global Rallycross
a lot of times
it's
stuck in dirt though. Yeah,
I see.
But I mean, his facility is right there too. It's not the same festival location, I guess, in that case, right? But even for him to put on a sprint series at his location just for Texan drivers, maybe he gets a few of them off the circle track thing and gets them onto the both way turn track on the dirt. So. I mean,
it's encouraging just to like see how successful that format is with dirt and with rally cars.
Well, I was talking with those guys too. Is it going to sound like, I don't know, clickbait statement or something like that? But rally is just not fun in a lot of ways. So it is fun to drive. You get a lot of seat time. It has its own draws. It's similar to how 24-hour Le Mans or something like that has. It's a challenge. It's difficult. You're on for a long period of time, but a rally, you show up, if it's a Friday, Saturday format, you show up Thursday and you're more or less on the clock for the next couple of days. And unless it's, hopefully for dinner at night or something like that, you never see your friends really if they're not on your crew or something. You spend so much time just driving around. And so it's, like, oh, hey, how's it going? Good, man. Oh, sorry, it's my minute. I got to go now. Maybe I'll see you at the finishing ceremonies. Where this was, we spent just as much time bench racing in between each run and going, oh man, I totally blew this corner. Oh, you blew that corner, but I blew this corner up. Oh, did you see it? Oh yeah, and then I got, so
it's that session atmosphere, like what you're talking about. You can actually go out there and drive, but then come back and have fun and like push each other to kind of develop. Whereas a rally, it's up against the clock, and yes, you're comparing yourself against the other cars and other drivers, but it's just, it's a different.
And you get to watch each other too. I mean, I like watching all these other cars drive and stuff. You get to, I like to see what other drivers are thinking through their driving. I like to listen to other cars, even though, the top 4 cars were all Subarus of a similar generation, right? As, a Hawkeye, a Blobeye, another GD. I forget the Terra guy if he was a blob or a bug.
He was a Blobeye.
So 2 Blobeyes, a Hawkeye, and a GC, but a wagon, a sedan, a 2-door in there, right? So, but still, we're all fundamentally. I think all 4 of us were on turboed, EJ series motors, but all cars drove different. All cars sounded different. All 4 drivers had different backgrounds and different, mentalities to any single corner, and so not only do you get to hang out, but you can see like, oh man, he's really pushing at this point or whatever, and kind of seeing each other. Like it's not something that normally you're not capable of doing, at a rally. So it's cool.
That's
awesome. A lot of fun. I'll definitely do it again. I made friends at the event that are now car friends. So,
very cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Man, it seems
like it was a good enough success that it will be back next year. And it seems like you said Bucky and Dave were looking for other avenues, other places to do this same kind of thing. I think it would be huge to get, if you could continue with Gridlife, if there's other venues out there that can support it, would be huge. But if nothing else, even if it turns into its own type of thing, either way, I think it was a huge success as far as bringing the people there and the amount of fun that everybody had. So let's hope it continues.
Finding venues will be their challenging point, right? But if anybody listening out there hears about something like this happening in their neck of the woods, go do it. It's totally awesome. What these guys are doing is great. I was really happy to be a part of it at this point. If there's anything else I can do to support it, I will. If it goes nowhere else other than Alpine Horizon having this great event at it as a one-off, cool. It still adds yet another reason that Colorado is the home of motorsports in the country. We're the home. We have the most diversity and the most calendar density of any other state. I know that Florida maybe has a bunch of, I don't know, something, right? But I don't know what it is because it's Florida, but you want to talk about, if for nothing else, just gravel rallying, gravel surface, production car competition between, the most successful rallycross division in the country is the Colorado region of SCCA Rallycross. We have the CHCA. We have this rally sprint. We have 2 of the 3 oldest motorsports events in the country with Pikes Peak and the Land's End Hill Climb. The whole CHCA series, Rally Colorado, is one of the most technically and mechanically challenging events on the entire calendar. It's a shame it's not a national level event. I think it's probably because those guys are worried their cars wouldn't survive, an actual challenging event.
Rumor is it will be next year.
Yeah, it better be, because I'd love to see if one of the factory cars could even survive what our grassroots, NA Subarus are putting down out here. So
it's
proud
not,
to be from this area.
It's worth mentioning too that the other thing that's cool about this type of event, this rally sprint, I remember, so being out here, we had Rally Colorado, so there's a lot of local guys that had rally cars that, Rally Colorado was their target event, but then they're running hill climbs and other regional rallies to kind of tune up for Rally Colorado, and then we lost Rally Colorado. This is when it was up in Steamboat. And a lot of those guys, either the cars just went away, they just converted them to something else, or they just lost them, because when you have a rally car, and if you want to drive on dirt, it's a different discipline. And if you can't, if there's not a lot of close events to run them in, it's just, the appeal and the justification to create that race car or tune the race car for that kind of event, it's really difficult. But if this kind of thing comes back, again, it's a much more attainable type of event to put your car into, like the hill climbs. And so it helps kind of, maybe it will help foster more people to kind of build a rally car, build a rally sprint car to come out there and compete.
Right. Yeah. So for that 4 to 6 hill, CHCA hill climbs a year, Rally Colorado, and then this rally sprint, we have 6 to 8. I don't know if I did my math right there, but 6 to 8, gravel rally car eligible events. And all but one of those allows you to run with no minimum weight limits, no hazmat spill kit requirement, no fancy spare tire changing on the side of the stage equipment, no restrictors, all those things that add cost and complexity, no logistics of a stage rally. But even if you wanted to do that, right, so the most expensive event of your season at that point is Rally Colorado, and that's a few $100. Other than that, the hill climbs are ballpark $200, depending on the event. This Gridlife thing was a couple $100, right? So for less than the cost of buying a set of tires, right? You could run a season of entry fees in your awesome. Everybody says, "Oh man, I wish Pikes Peak was still dirt," or "Oh man, I wish I could do rally car stuff." Well, you can, and there are venues for this stuff. Just come do it.
And good venues, and good competition.
Yeah. Fun roads, good drivers, positive competition. Right? You're surrounded by a bunch of. I'm lucky to be surrounded by a bunch of good drivers here in Colorado that I can still pick brains on and hey, what am I what am I doing here, right, and stuff like that. And everybody's working together. It's not crummy like some motorsports communities get, where it's all protests and rule book violations and stuff like that. It's all good time stuff.
It's still being all settled out there on the road with the driving versus otherwise.
Yeah, right. I mean, just the other day, I rode mountain bikes with my primary competition in the hill climbs, and we had a good time. So I don't think that Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are getting together for beers anytime soon. So,
No, I could not see that happening.
And our competition's closer than theirs is. So
there you go.
What's that? Formula One, second-rate sport.
Shots fired. We'll call that. We'll call that the title of this episode. If you're listening to this point, that I should call it "Why Formula One is a Second-Rate Sport." That'll be the episode 40. Click. Yep.
No. I mean, I love Formula One, and all love to everybody out there. But having a good time, awesome vibes. Their event was fun. Looking forward to Land's End. It's going to be a hell of a competition.
Which, as we're recording this, is this weekend.
Yeah, so I got to finish prepping the car, like now, like as soon as we stop recording. When I finish prepping it, get it on the trailer, and leave tomorrow morning. So yeah, and I hear there's going to be a GRC car out there, word on the street. Yep. So fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see if I can make up that difference just on sheer courage or something.
And I'm sure you've heard about the course, because I think I-70 is closed, so it's probably going to be a longer drive for you to get out there.
Yeah. So that's why we're leaving first thing, because it won't stop raining in the middle of the state. So, but it'll be a good time once we're out there, awesome. And I mean, similar vibe at hill climbs as at this rally sprint, where everybody's there to have a good time, and the pits are open. Come out, visit, say hi. Check out a GRC car up and close. Come check out my, garage-made contraption.
For sure. It's going to be good times, man. More stuff to talk about hopefully soon, and hopefully get some good news going with your car here, Scotty, in the next couple of weeks.
Well, and then real quick, Ryan, you're racing WRL this weekend.
Yep.
Oh, geez, yeah.
I'm doing WRL with, it's ironically in Giannis Dances's BMW, which I think he was planning on going to the Land's End hill climb, so I filled his seat. But we got a pretty stacked team. We got Dave Brown, who we all know, Ryan McLaughlin, who's another rally kind of race car guy.
Formula Mazda champion.
Yep. With his cow print 13B powered Mazda. That thing is sick. And myself, and I feel like I'm missing one other. Case Gorbstein, I think is his name. Anyway, one of the owners of the car. So I went out and tested that car last Thursday to make sure it fit good. I scrubbed in some tires. We did a little bit of work on it. And I had the fastest qualifying time out of the 4 drivers. So that felt pretty good, even though I was literally just starting to warm up on the car. Like it's a lot different than a Subaru, and it's way more of a momentum car than my yellow car is, because the yellow car feels like it can make up speed. This car just doesn't have it's tuned so conservative with a alignment. Even I was telling Giannis, I was like, dude, what's the toe in on that car? He's like, it's like an 1/8 inch toe in. I'm like, oh man, 0 toe would be awesome. And I was like, yeah, it's like, we also need a car that anybody can get into and not just start wrecking into shit. They have to pull that bleeding edge in quite a bit, so that they're not building a car that's just impossible to, you can only drive it at the ragged edge.
How long is the run time? How long is the event?
It's 8 hours each day. So 2 8-hour days.
2 8-hour days. That's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're in GP2, so it's not a super, super fast class. Fortunately, we're not in GP1. My buddies who run Big Mission Motorsports, they'll have a couple cars of GP1 and a brand new M240IR out for themselves in GPO. So we'll be in GP2. So we're going to be competing against, have you heard of that company NRG that does those 8.6s?
Yeah.
So there'll be a couple NRG 8.6s in GP2 and a couple other mid-tier BMWs and stuff in there as well. So hopefully we do good. Yeah, I think we'll be able to, as long as our pits and there's no mechanicals and nothing major happens, I think we'll be able to stack up pretty solid against the FRSs and the BRZs. But I think it is going to be a tough battle against other BMWs, as it usually is, you know.
And what BMW you driving?
It's
What
like
year is
a
it?
I think it's like a 98. It's a 95 to 98 to E36 coupe, and I believe it's either a 328 or an M3. I think it's a 328, and super solid motor. It's probably like they've dynoed it, so they actually know, but I think it's like 160, 180 horsepower.
Okay.
So it's turned down on the top end on purpose to stay in GP2. So I was only running 208s, which isn't like mind blowing by any means. But when you consider, you know, how lightly built the car is, it wasn't too bad. That's not, I mean, that's
It's got a
5 seconds
splitter
faster than
underneath.
I go in my M3. What's that?
Got a little arrow too, right?
Yeah, it's got a small splitter, and it's got an old APR like GT 200 wing on it. And I do mean old.
Yeah.
The
Well,
thing
it's
is
just
probably as old as the car.
when you've got to be able to do 208s, but do 208s for 16 hours. That it's different to
Yeah.
do a 208 to be able to do that
Yeah.
for that length of time.
Right.
That changes things.
And with Giannis being a rally driver, the car doesn't have ABS or a brake booster. So it's kind of nice that it doesn't have a brake booster since it doesn't have ABS. But the car would probably be, in general, a lot easier to drive with ABS. But it works out because, I mean, driving the car, I was realizing it's all about rolling speed with that thing. Like roll. So like you start getting tire lock up, just let off of it. You're just rolling through a lot of those corners. It can carry a lot of speed, but it is a lot different than driving the Subarus for sure, and even the Miatas. I mean, the Miatas they're just so much slower, you know. So there is a lot of potential with this car.
Nice. Well, fun. We've talked about many things, so we should probably wrap it up here. And heck, Tasso, you've got a little bit of prep work to finish up by the sound of it.
Yeah.
So good luck at it lands in. Good luck at WRL, and yeah, man.
Thank you.
We will wrap it there. So thanks very much. Oh, go ahead.
I do want to throw out one honorable mention. You know, I placed 5th in Unlimited, which isn't crazy, and I was in the top 10 for most of the weekend. But it didn't feel like I was going that fast because I looked to my left, and there's Corey Ross, a Colorado guy. I looked to my right, and it's Adam Wood, a Colorado Subaru guy. And all around me are Subaru people. And I'm like, man, like, I'm beating myself up. Why aren't I going faster? Why aren't I going faster? You look on the other side of Corey Ross, and it's 1,000 horsepower GTR, 650 horsepower, you know, Dewey's Subaru, you know, 1,200 horsepower GTR, 1,400 horsepower Corvette. So I think the Colorado guys, we really, really represented well, I think, as far as the, you know, in the top 10 drivers overall.
Nice.
And it's just so cool to see. I think Adam Wood is 32 thousandths of a second off of me. Trey Tyler in his car, he got into I think in the 202s out here with his VA. Like, it was really, really bonkers to see just how deep the Colorado drivers were. And it's kind of cool to be like part of that at the same time. So honorable mention to all of our Colorado drivers who came out to Gridlife that really did represent very, very well with their cars. So
once again, as Tasso would say, proof that Colorado is the number one motorsports state in the country.
Yeah, there you go.
In North America.
That's right. That's right.
I expanded it just now to North America from the country, so because
okay.
Yeah,
it's even bigger. That's right. Yes, take that, Canada.
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow, we're all sorts of clickbait this time. Sweet. Well. Again, so thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Greatly appreciate that as always. Go check out the Lansing Hill Climb. Go check out WRL. Check out NASA. Just find motorsports and follow it wherever you are. And until next time.
Go participate in it.
Go participate in it if you can. And if you can't participate, support it. If you can't
There's no reason outside your own head for getting out there and doing it. So just put that reason aside and go do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much. Cool. And until next time, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.
See ya.
See you guys.